Sam, you're on mute. Mute.
Someone just told me I'm on mute. They were shouting, mute, you're on mute, you're on mute. Start again. Right. Welcome to PRTV Spurs. Paxton Road TV. I'm Sam, Spurs for Life. Talking points number 135. I'm just in the housekeeping process. I was sending a link to somebody, but a lot's gone on in the world in the last week or so. We haven't been here for a little while. Couple of games for Spurs as well. So we are talking about Spurs friendly fire. Run for your lives. What does it mean? What does it mean? Well, we'll see what it means. How do you think the Spurs team are doing so far? Played Hearts, played QPR, 6 goals, 7 goals scored, 2 goals conceded, 1 goal conceded. Anyway, the maths don't really matter. I'm just watching and enjoying. Anyway, in the house, there is one. Oops, add to stage. This one, add to stage. That one, not in the right places. That will do. Darius 3K will be joining us very soon, guys. I've noticed last time my mic wasn't too great, so I hope it's better. Do I need to turn it up? How's it sound?
That's fine. It's fine.
Perfect. I like that sound. The Joe Biden effect. That's how he speaks. Yeah, I've been getting a bit doolally, watching a lot of new stuff. Trump shooting last week was madness.
Thanks, Stuart.
The world's gone mad. I think there's something deep going on. And there must be some things going on deep inside of the Spurs because we're seeing a lot of young players playing, which is good. Are they going to continue for the season? I don't know. But my friends are here to discuss all Spurs and obviously the games that have gone on. So welcome to the stream. It's Sid. Welcome to the stream, Sean. I haven't done this yet, and I want to do it because I like the music. That's better. The music at least was done. You know what I mean? I'm not going to do all the intros again. Darius 3K should be joining us very shortly. Who am I here? Sid, Sean, and Darius. How are we all doing? Are we good? How's the world treating you? How's the sunshine treating you? It's going to be a bit more cloudy tomorrow, as they say. It's been up to 28, 29 degrees. Wherever you are, I hope that's been the case for you. Up there in sunny Scotland, looks like you just drew the curtains there. It looked like there's a bit of sunshine coming from that curtains there, Sean. No?
No, there's been no sunshine in Scotland. If you've been watching the golf, as I have, you'll have seen that the weather, particularly yesterday, was atrocious. It's a little bit better today, but no, the weather has been awful. Which is totally in contrast to last Wednesday when I trotted through to the Scottish capital to watch our young boys serve up an entertaining dish of football against Heart of Midlothian.
We'll get to that. We'll get to all things Spurs. Like I said, it's not a normal review type thing. We'll obviously talk about the games. I watched them I wouldn't say in great detail. I'll be honest with you. I scanned the first game. I watched more so the second game. But even with the second game, I'm still kind of, well, is this going to be the team that's likely to start? We want to see some cameos. I want to see some cameos. I want to effectively see some players that get, right, that's a goodbye, or that's a person that I ain't seen. That's a young player that we should be playing, blah, 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 rest of it, who's improved, etc., etc. So let's get into it. Let's get into all things Spurs as per usual. Before we do, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, comment, Paxton Road TV, which will be no longer after the 1st of August. I think that's what we've discussed. You'll still be able to find us there. But PRTV Spurs will be our new home. And we'll be going for the season from that. Sean, Hearts game. Since you're our Scottish counterpart, or at least representing Scotland.
I'm your Scottish correspondent.
That's right. You're representing all things north of the border for us when it comes to Spurs. So we'll start with you. Yeah, the Hearts game, we might as well start with that. 5-1 in the end?
5-1 in the end.
5-1 in the end.
We managed to go in 1-0 at half-time, more by luck than judgment. Hearts had plenty of chances, but then when you play Archie Gray and Oliver Skip as your centre-backs, you are asking for trouble, even against Scottish Premier League players. But Yeah, very strange formation. Obviously, we've got no first team centre backs because they're all sunning themselves post European or other tournaments. But we got a good chance to look at some very young, talented players, many of whom obviously are now posing a question to Ange about whether they stay with the team or go out on loan. I was very pleased to get my first sight of Bergwijn and Archie Gray, and to me, they are first team players without a doubt. Whether they're starters, that's up for debate. But I like what they did, and certain players just confirmed that some of the worst aspects about them, and others have thrown a spanner in the works, if you like. If we think about Jed Spence, we'll see. But yeah, thoroughly entertaining game. Spoiled by the fact that our view was obscured by the worst invasion of seagulls I've ever seen in my life. It was like playing at the seaside at times. But yeah, great to see young players. I was very, very impressed. I mean, he's kind of gone under the radar, but I was very impressed by Tyrese Hall, who's a very good player. But yeah, Lancashire, Moore, all acquitted themselves really well on Wednesday, and they were far superior to a Scottish senior team, and more joy watching Tottenham and watching Ange ball.
Cool. There is first game of pre-season. Just this comment here from Jews Nuts. Biden has withdrawn. Well, guess what? He's gone. It looks like he's on his way out. They're going to replace him with somebody else. It will have to be, not to do too much of a political thing here, Kamala Harris, which will be twice as bad for the Democrats. Anyway, that's another story for another podcast on another day. Sid, did you watch the? I like the top, by the way. It's a nice top you got there. Yeah, very nice top. I got one too, but I decided to wear Trust the Vision. It was a kind of appropriate. My friend Peter Banton, Moneybags Clothing, but Trust the Vision, not the process.
I like to see the fact that you're contributing to Tottenham Hotspur's profits there.
Trust the. Oh, look at that. PRTV Spurs on the back. Sid representing. Anything stand out for you in that Hearts game before I get to Darius? Sid.
I watched the first half, and I think Sean, obviously, you watched the whole game. That obviously because you was there. Son, Johnson, and all them lot started the first half. I personally thought second half team played much better than the first half team, and I think that second half team could have got a rugby score if they had, well, not the shooting boots on, but their keeper done well, and I think we could have had a hell of a lot more goals. I don't know if you agree with that or not, Sean, but I thought, like you said, Tyrese Hall, apart from that 1 minute into the second half, Emerson Royal doing what Emerson Royal does best for his show reel. Apart from that, I think the youngsters were very good. Lancashire, Mikey Moores. And like I said to you, I think the second half team I was like, wow, these lot. Because if you noticed, there was no side to side, back to the keeper. Everything was just constantly going forward. It was attack kind of thing. And I thought it was great entertainment. 5-1, obviously, like you said, it was, in the end, it was like Spurs deserved it. But even if it could have been 2-3-1, I think it would have been happy. And I think Postecoglou would have been happy with that performance. So, yeah, you know what? The youngsters got a shot, which we were always been saying last season, no. But it looks like certain players are going to have a very, what can I say? They're going to be more in that squad than not. And I think a lot of them will get match game time. Mikey Moore, for example, he's turned down Bayern Munich. He's turned down Dortmund, other people, other clubs a lot more. apparently he's been given the scouts honor that he's going to get game time, which will be very interesting. So, yeah, I was quite happy with that. And the youngsters, because like you said, we've seen it all last season. Everyone's been raving the youngsters, and I think they delivered in the first game. We'll talk about yesterday's game as well, but I think we've saved some money on there with some of these youngsters if they do what they've been saying for a while and actually play them.
Darius, as a youngster, as the youngest member of this panel, you probably have more insight into the youngsters of the Tottenham squad. Some good youngsters, it appears. Some ones that we talked about, raved about. We need to see them play. And we've seen some cameos from some of them against Hearts and QPR. What's your thoughts then so far on what's going on with regards to that game and obviously the bigger picture of the transfer window, I guess?
Yeah, it was good. Good viewing, to be fair. I think watching the kids play, it's always enjoyable to see sort of who you think is ready for that step up and who's not, who's ready to go on loan and stuff like that. And I think there's a lot of those kids who are probably ready to play for that team. Again, what our intentions are, what our goals are for this season, to me determines how much you really want to give some of these kids a chance. If you really do believe in them, then you play them. And I don't want to see sort of excuses on not playing them. If you do think they're good enough, then you play them. And if not, and you're really sort of wanting to challenge for a league realistically, and I say realistically because I don't think there's any realistic possibility of us challenging. But let's say you do want to realistically try and challenge for the league, a lot of these kids aren't going to get game time. So it's about the balance. It's about, finding out who is good enough. And I guess these preseason games are a good, indicator to Ange Postecoglou on who is good enough. And I do think there are some players. I think Gray and Bergvall, in my opinion, are starters. I know Bissouma had a pretty decent game against QPR, but I think Gray's a better fit for that midfield and isn't that far off of being a worse or better player than Bissouma as well. So I think he would fit that role. And I was saying to Sam earlier on, the reason I think he's playing that centre-back role in these earlier games is because he's displaying the same amount of or the same characteristics that you would need to show in that defensive midfield role, in that centre-back role. Whereas if he was playing a right-back, he wouldn't necessarily be doing as much tackling. I necessarily think he'd be drifted into midfield, etc., trying to find passes. So I think him playing centre-back is more of an indication of sort of using that skill set in that defensive midfield role. And I think Bergvall's just an incredible talent who's physically ready for the Premier League at his height. And I know he's had a bit of an injury in that last game, but again, some of these kids are ready to play. I would even say Mikey Moore's ready to play. People like Alfie Devine, I think, are really, really, really potentially knocking on the door at getting minutes in this team. So it's about who you want to, give these minutes to, who you really would rest your laurels on. And again, if you think that they're going to be good enough and impact the team, then you can sort of change your transfer planning. But yeah, I still think we're going to have to get at least three main players who are going to fit in that either starting 11 or who would seamlessly come in and out of it. I still think we need to get at least three. So as much as it's promising seeing all these kids play well, it's like you said, Sam, it's the second team of Hearts we've been playing against. It's, reserve teams of QPR. The intensity is not going to be there, but it's very obvious to see that there's, I would say, a handful of these kids who will probably have a good spot in this team. And now you've seen the likes of Højbjerg be sold today. You can see that there is going to be space for these kids to take minutes off certain players. So yeah,
what I will say, there's an intention to play them and see what they're doing. Whether they play in the season as readily as we might think now is a different matter, because there's quite a number of players who are not even back from wherever they've gone because of the Euros and Copa America, etc. Just wanted to go through the team, and then I can just give my quick penny word. Austin starting goal, Pedro Porro right back, Gray skip centre backs, Donnelly left back, Bissouma, Maddison, and I think it was Kulishevsky made up the midfield, Johnson, Solomon, and Son made up the front three. Son being in the middle, Solomon being on the left, Johnson being on the right. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just quickly touch on the players that we haven't really seen much of and touching them. So Gray playing in this centre back role. I was surprised. You made a good point what you said, Darius, about potentially looking at as playing a a defensive central role, so that centre DM role could be his to take up. But my thing then is, why not play him there? Why play two players at centre back in Skip and Gray, who, if you're not intending on playing centre back, because I don't understand why Skip would be being tried out for a centre back. We've got plenty of good centre backs. Even if we were short of players, you could have played Emerson Royal there, Phillips there if you wanted to. And I know they played anyway, but you could have swapped it around, because this kind of looked like more like a first team starting than a second team, if that makes sense. Just from the players that we've seen, the Madisons, the Sons, Kulishevskis, and the second half team was a lot different. So I don't understand why you'd play Gray, particularly play him twice in the centre back role, if the intention is not to play him as a centre back. I'd rather see a player play in a position which we can kind of see, even if that's going to be right back. I'd rather see him play there than centre back. But they may have other plans, so I don't know. The Skip thing, don't know what's going on there. Donnelly left back. Again, I've mentioned about the fullbacks at Spurs. They don't play fullbacks. They don't play wing backs. They're kind of inverted and they kind of have to drift into spaces. So I'm not really too fussed. If a player can play midfield and you can coach him to play on that left side and defend relatively well, which I think Donnelly can, then I think there's an opportunity. So I wouldn't mind seeing him there. But the centre-back thing, we was all told about Gray because we spent a lot of money on him. Is he going to be our new Eric Dyer? Because that's what Eric Dyer was. Play him left back. No, sorry, play him right back. Started off his career there. Play him centre back, centre midfield, and didn't really nail down anything. And again, not to say the talent levels are the same, but it's got the same sort of connotations to me as to, if a player hasn't got a position now, you're kind of using them in all kinds, which is not a bad thing. But a £40 million player who we've all loaded up saying he's looking like the part to be in midfield, play him in midfield then. Play him at his strength. Don't play him somewhere where he's not quite at his strength. But that's much costly, so I don't actually know what's going on. The front three, Kulishevsky, Solomon and Son. Sorry, Johnson, Solomon and Son. Let's talk about that. How do you think Son did in that game, that first game? I'll start with anybody. Anybody just mention how they felt Son played in that first game? Anybody?
It's just average Son performance, to be honest.
Yeah.
Wasn't anything stand out, wasn't anything drastically bad, just what he's been doing for the past couple of years now. I'm not really... The thing is with Son is people forget he scored... He got 17 goals, 10 assists last season in the Premier League. Like, I think Sonny... I don't really mind how Sonny looks in pre-season because I know what to expect from Sonny. Do you know what I mean? I'm not looking at players like Son. I'm not looking at players like Madison. I'm not looking really at players like, even Udojis and Poros. Like, these players have locked down their positions in the team. You're not really going to get much different out of them. So I'm focusing on the youngsters at the moment. And yeah, there's nothing really concerning for me about Son's performances. I just think he was all right. It's just there, isn't it? Getting his minutes under his belt.
I mean, let's get it right. This first game is about 45 minutes in the legs. Like yesterday's game was 45 minutes in the legs.
Yeah.
And where people are going to finish up, who's going to stay, who's going to go, who's going to, it's nice to speculate on, but it's about fitness at this time. And that's what Wednesday to me was all about. It was about fitness. I like to see, there was some nice interplay between the midfield, particularly in the second half. But then these are players that know each other a bit more. And I'm not worried about Gray playing centre back. I mean, it's.
I didn't say I was worried. I didn't say I was worried. Hold on. I didn't say I was worried. Yeah. I would say I don't understand it. That's all. I'm not saying.
Well, Romero, Van der Ven, and Dragusin. There's your answer. The three centre backs are having their asses on the beach somewhere. So what else are you supposed to do? Dorrington picked up a hamstring injury in April and is still recovering. Phillips was the only available fullback, and again he got his 45 minutes in the second half and he performed very well. I don't. I just feel that. It's about fitness, and are they able to? Do they look good? Do they look like they can pass? Do they look like they know how to fit into a structure?
So I'll ask the question.
Graded.
I'll ask a question. Do you think that Gray is potentially going to play centre back for us, or is he nailed in to play somewhere else and he's just going to fill in centre back if we need him to?
He's going to play somewhere else, definitely.
Okay, that's fine.
I've just named three first choice centre backs.
Okay, but I don't know what's going on at Spurs, and I wouldn't like to say why is this the first team was not, because it doesn't look like there's any sort of first team per se. But the players that started both these games, there were certain players that started which you would consider to be more first team players. So I'm only making an assumption that this looks more like a first team than the other. And both the starting lineups, there was a couple of changes in the lineup against QPR than there was from the other game. And in both times, we saw Skip playing at centre back and Gray playing at centre back. There was no changes there. There was no bringing Phillips in to play there or to bring in Emerson. So if that's the case, Emerson Royal has played centre back and Phillips is a centre back. I just didn't understand why 2 games in a row we've seen the same starting centre back. I didn't understand it if they're not going to be centre backs. Do you understand?
I think it's just profile. Like I said, our fullbacks don't.
I get that.
They don't act like fullbacks. If you're gonna look at how Gray's gonna play.
However, talking about the centre backs, forget the fullbacks. I understand the fullback situation, so I can understand the Donnelly thing. I fully understand that. Skip playing at centre back with somebody who's just been brought into the club playing at centre back. I know it's only friendly. I'm just asking questions because this is what anybody would do if you saw that team. If Phillips was in there against Gray, I'd say, "Oh, that makes more sense." But it's Skip. That doesn't make sense because I know Skip's not going to play centre back. But can he play centre back? Whether he can or not, that's great. I just want to see players playing in their positions. If we're going to start getting this, because when there's other players come back,
but Sam, when you don't have a player to play that position, what do you do? 3 of our 4 centre backs are away on a beach, so you just go with the senior players.
And there's no way they're getting 90 minutes. So I think he's just said, you know what, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
45 minutes.
45 minutes.
45 minutes. Because there's no point playing someone 90 minutes. No point playing Gray 90 minutes. No point playing Phillips 90 minutes. I think he's put it already on paper that I've got 2 teams are going to play 45 minutes, 45 minutes. We've already seen that in the Hearts game and the QPR game. So he's looked at it and he's probably thought, let me mix it up. He probably didn't want to play Phillips and Emerson Royal in the first half with Son, Maddison, Basuma, all them lot, because then you're playing literally an untried, untested team in the second half. So he probably thought, if I put Gray and Skip as centre backs in the first half, I've got Basuma, I've got Maddison's, I've got Sons, I've got him, I've got them. Second. Just
on your first point, isn't that the point of friendlies? To kind of just see, I'm playing a bit of devil's advocate, but I'm also looking at a structure because, as I said, I've seen plenty of pre-seasons before from Spurs, and what I want to see is, okay, what am I seeing that's giving me the confidence that these players are going to play in that position that's going to give us the benefits going forward? I was told that Gray is going to be one of our best players in terms of a centre back. A central defensive midfielder position, but he can also play right back. I didn't know he could play centre back. Izan's trying to find that out for some reason. That's what I'm trying to work out because he's done it twice in a row alongside another player who's not a centre back. So he could have played Gray.
Other centre backs is players who are going to be sold, like Emerson and Skip. I don't think are going to be there.
I get that, but he's still playing players that are going to be sold. So that's beside the point. So you could have played Gray, Skip first game, Gray, Phillips next game, or somebody. I'm not saying that, you should not play centre back. What I want to know was there must be a reason for it. And I can't just take, because all the other centre backs away because we got young.
No, like I said, I think it's because if you look at the centre back, if you look at the way our fullback, that's why I mentioned the fullbacks. I wasn't mentioning it in terms of anything else, but in relation to Archie Gray, he's going to drift into midfield as a fullback. I get that. But as a defensive midfielder, I think his priority will be to help. And if you look at the way that we played against QPR, when Basuma played, Hearts, when Basuma played, he was very deep, almost in line with the 2 centre-backs, which is not as similar as he was playing before. So I think in that sense, that DM role, because I do believe it will be Bergvall and Maddison, or 2 very creative 8s playing in that position, I think it's going to be a case of you're helping out that defensive line, clean up a lot of issues. So as a centre-back, he's winning headers, he's winning 1v1s as he was doing in the game against Hearts. I think he'll be doing those same actions, just 10 yards in front of the defense when he does play in that DM. That's the only reason I think he's playing centre back. It's because the profile is similar to a DM and a centre back in our system is quite similar. They're gonna win the ball back, they're gonna press high, and they're gonna sort of try to distribute the ball. That's the only reason I think he played centre back. I don't think it's anything else other than that. I don't think he'll play centre back for us. I don't think he'll. Yeah, I think he'll be playing DM, and I do think if he continues the way he's played, I think he will start. I don't think it will take a long time for him to displace Basuma in this starting lineup as well.
Interesting. Again, Basuma played in that game. Maddison played in that game. Kulusevski played in the game in midfield. Basuma looks like he's, again, it's pre-season, and I'm looking at the position that we played. He looks like he's got a bit of a spring in his step, something to prove, which he kind of started that way last season. Do you think then, and I'll ask all of you, is Gray after his place? Because Basuma was the kind of number 6, although he's not a number 6. But if he doesn't play number 6, where else is he going to play in terms of next season? Or does that not matter? Is it just a case of he's playing well now, we should just forget about it? Or are we looking to sign or see where players should be playing? Because if you're telling me that Gray's going to quickly displace Basuma as a defensive midfielder, or certainly in a place in midfield, should be playing midfield. That's all I'm saying.
He's a natural midfielder, isn't he? And you ask any Leeds fan and they'll say his best position is in that midfield. He played right back a few games, but that's because they got players injured and they had no choice, and he done quite well. But most important thing for him is he's a midfielder, and he classes himself as a midfielder. So to answer your question, Basuma's position is a threat. He's in danger. He's big time under threat. 100%, I agree. And I'll say that now. If there's anyone that he'll replace, it will be Basuma. So Basuma now has to be on it, because I think Angie's bought him for that reason as well, to give Basuma a kick up the arse and to say, you know what, mate, I've not only bought in a youngster, I've bought in a youngster who ripped the championship last season. So if you're not on it, mate, your place is gone, and good luck to try and get it back. So I think that number 6 position and Basuma's position, you better be afraid, very afraid.
Okay.
Well, one of the strengths I saw in Gray was his ability to tackle. He's better. He's better than Basuma in tackling.
That's exactly what you need in that position. Is if you think about it, and I kept saying this at the end of the season. None of us, I don't believe, I won't speak for you guys, but I'm led to believe that none of us would change any individual in that back 5, back 4 who we had last season, who was our main starting back 4. And I do wholeheartedly agree with that. I don't think any of us would change that. However, we still conceded 60-odd goals last season, so something has to change. So you have to, I'm not putting the blame on Ange Postecoglou in any way, but his system, the way he plays, allows that team to concede more chances. Now, for me, if you've got somebody like, and I'm not comparing the two, but for example, Saliba and Gabriel look like the best defense in the league because they have Declan Rice in front of them, cleaning up a lot of issues that even they don't really need to. Well, he will clean up issues that they don't need to deal with, because he will eliminate that issue before it gets to them. So it makes them look better. It makes them look like a more solid defense. I think that's the sort of thing we'll see with Gray's tackling ability, like you said, Sean. He's going to clean up so much things in front that it will just automatically make it look like Romero and Van de Ven are doing less work and are sort of doing better defensively, because they've almost got now an extra body in that sort of defensive transition now. For me, I think it's a no-brainer. Archie Gray, his profile perfectly fits what we need in that DM. So if I see him starting as a right back, or if I see him potentially, being in competition with Pedro Porro for right back, that doesn't make sense. He'll be a perfectly adequate backup right back if we need him. And he can really displace, I really do believe he can displace Basuma, because his characteristics just fit what you need as a DM. His close control, his ability to, work off play. It all screams an initial and ideal 6 for our system. So, like I said, by the end of August, I think he'll be starting. I'll be honest with you.
This is my thoughts on him, and I'll just finish on Gray from my perspective. You guys can talk. I personally think he's not yet got a position nailed down that Ange particularly says you're going to play there. I think because of his ability, because of his talent, he's still got that. Because of his age as well, he's still got that potential. And when I say he's an Eric Dyer replacement, I don't mean it disparagingly. I mean it in a good sense, because we suffered last season by playing certain players that couldn't play in certain positions very well, although they were asked to play there. If you've got a talented footballer who's willing to play wherever the manager asks you to, and he's good at it, that's a bonus for any manager to have. I'm thinking of myself from a coaching perspective and management perspective. If I had a player that's really good, I said, well, he can play right back. Looks like he can play centre back. Oh, well.
Do you think that's going to stunt the development of him as an 18-year-old, though? If you're an 18-year-old and you don't have that position locked down.
For the conversation. I'm not taking anything away from him, but this is the reason for the conversation. When you're 18, you want to be, right, this is what I'm playing, kind of, unless you haven't quite got that ability and they're still trying to search for you. By all accounts, he's a talent. We're not going to take Jude Bellingham and say, right, Jude, you know what? I think you might be better off on the left wing now. No.
I mean, Southgate.
Yeah, you're playing him centrally. Now, whether you play him higher up, it's number 10, or maybe slightly further back as an 8, that's what you're going to do with Jude. You're not probably going to say, Jude, I think you should play as a number 6, because that's not his strengths, because you've seen what his talent is since he was 14, 15 years of age. I make the same assumptions about Archie Gray, because lots of people have been talking about him. In the same way, Mikey Moore's being talked about a lot as being a front player. I'm not going to expect to see him pop up as a left back in our system, because that's not what I would expect to get from him technically. But I do believe Archie Gray fits that mold of an Eric Dyer that we can use along and not suffer too much in quality, which isn't a bad thing. But for him personally, I don't know what that means for his development. Hence the conversation I just wanted to have with you guys about that. The substitutes. Let me just put this up on here with the subs that were on and that came on.
It was pretty much a whole new team, wasn't it?
Whole new team. So Scarlett came on, Devine came on. Scarlett didn't come on until 82 minutes. Devine came on halftime. Werner, Moore, Whiteman came on as well. Gunter, Valise, Spence, Phillips, Lang. They all got game time apart from John, looks like, and Santiago. They missed out. But there were some very, very, very good cameos. Lancashire being talked about as a new Harry Kane. I hate people saying that sort of thing, but if you can do that, is he the new Harry Kane?
I'll let one of you guys go first.
You know,
has he got the potential?
There was that one moment. I think the goal that he scored, and it sort of reminded me the way he got it, controlled it, and finished it. It sort of reminded me of Harry Kane. There's a lot of talk about him. There was a lot of talk about him at this precise moment in the club, because they were thinking of letting him go on loan, but apparently they've changed his mind now, and they're saying that he from what they've seen in training and everything like that, they're going to take him on tour. They're not going to put him out on loan. And it's not got to his head. He's doing what he does. And I watched him yesterday as well. He's young. He's coming through. I'm going to ask a question, right? Personally, Scarlett can go and Lancashire can stay for me, because I see a bigger, better prospect for Lancashire at Spurs than I do for Scarlett.
Who wants to answer that?
I wholeheartedly agree, but I would like to hear what Sean has to say.
I'm no font of knowledge, as you know. But yeah, I think you have to look at Lancashire. On the Saturday last week, he played for the under-21s. They called it. He wasn't training with the first team. He went into first team training on Monday, and by Wednesday he was getting picked to play in a game. And he played again yesterday. I think there's a big buzz about Lancashire, and like Sid said, the way he took his goal and what it meant to him as well. I mean, you identify with players who kiss the badge even though it's a friendly, and he didn't even do the full second half, Lancashire, in that game. He was actually replaced by Valise later on. So it's
22 minutes. You got 22 minutes of game time.
But in that 22 minutes, he bullied a professional player. He linked up. Obviously he was playing with a lot of the players that he'd been playing with for a lot last season. So there's going to be a bit of familiarity with the rest of them. But yeah, I think Lancashire has jumped ahead of Scarlett for me too. if I was saying, if you know, and I would say that Veliz is ahead of Scarlett too. I think he's much more of a unit. He's quicker, and I think, you know, if the players that are going to stay, I think, are going to be Lancashire and Veliz, and I think Scarlett may well find himself out on loan.
And Scarlett's put some effort into eating protein, because I swear the brother's put on another. He's huge.
I know
the brother's huge. I saw his shoulders. You can see he's been doing something in the gym and putting down some food as well. My thoughts on Scarlett. I can see another Troy Parrott in there. I think you're right. All of you said some correct things. I think Lancashire's ahead of him in terms of what I've seen. And Veliz, up to the point he got injured. Again, I liked what I saw. Obviously, he's not had too much game time because he only played, 15 minutes?
I mean, he pressed his pressing was unbelievable, Veliz.
Yeah.
He really put the goalkeeper under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we need that, huh?
Didn't Veliz bust his nose because he went down?
He did break his nose, yeah. He did break
he
his
broke
nose.
his nose. He got taken off.
So that's why he got taken off. Okay, so it was because he only got 15 minutes. I was like, what? Anyway, I don't remember seeing that incident. Okay, the only other player I want to talk about in this sense for this game, we'll obviously touch on the other players in the other game, as I said, we've gone 37 minutes, is, and this will, I don't know if it's going to split the fan base, makes more discussion. Jed Spence, bought in 2022. Conte famously said he's a club signing, talented player, but a club signing. Basically said he doesn't want him, or he doesn't want to play him. He's been out on loan, hasn't really featured for Spurs. It appears, as with all players, and as all things Andrew said, he's going to give everybody an opportunity. Didn't he give him an opportunity last season as well? Or has he seen more in him now? What's the reason for Spence getting the amount of time he's getting? And is he doing all right? How do you think he's doing? Sid. Go on, Sid. Go on. You have that.
I thought he'd done quite well. I think, like you just said, Postecoglou was giving everyone an opportunity. Maybe because nobody wants him. They've tried. They've put him on the market. There's all these so-called deals happening, but then no one's going ahead because they want him for free. And I think he's gone quiet. So he's probably thinking, you know what? Let me play him, see how he goes. I think he's done all right. I think he done all right yesterday as well. There's still, and I think Sean said it as well, there's still that question about his defending at times. Going forward, they're raving about one or two moves that he done in the game yesterday. A bit of a unit in that. But I think it could be his last chance saloon, and Ange wants to give him a go to see how he does. I personally would have him as a backup. If Emerson Royal's going to go, I think he might be a nice little backup to have for Pedro Porro. Saves us spending a lot of money on a player that's, might want to come and sit on the bench. So I think as an option to have, if he gets his head screwed together, listens to what Ange says, knuckles down, listens, then I think there's a player in the making there. There is a player in the making, and it's not cost us a lot of money. So if we're going to have faith in Ange and then we're going to have faith in Spence, then it could be a blessing in disguise.
What about the reports? And Sean, I know you've mentioned this before about potentially other sides of not Jedi Spence. And this is what he was being called. Who called him Jedi Spence? Dino, you called him Jedi Spence. I like that's quite good actually. Jedi Spence. And I think I'm going to take that one on. Jedi Spence maybe has more. I'm going to say the word anyway, baggage, because I don't like that phrase. But has he got more baggage that's being brought that's not allowing managers to see the best of him? Because what's his name? Farquhar, whatever the name is, the guy at Leeds, he didn't really fancy him too much. Middlesbrough, we've all heard about that. He did really well at Forest, but that was only on loan. Is he a lone player? That's what is it about him that's not got him? Because again, really talented. I saw a lot of him in that Forest and then the cup games that he played against Premier League opposition, blah, blah, blah. So he looked like potentially he had something there. He's gone out alone. He said himself he didn't have confidence from the manager in terms of Conte, so I can understand that. But then last season, we got a new manager in. Again, is it the same sort of thing? Did he have a look at him and think, I don't really fancy him, get him out on loan? And now we're in a situation where we're just playing him because we want to get rid of him. I don't know.
A player, not sure am I. to take the Jedi thing a little bit further, yes. Do you know? I mean, I think what was telling was the post-match conference that Ange gave after the Hearts game, in which he was very faint with his praise about Jed Spence, and I thought Jed Spence had an excellent contribution second half. Probably better on Wednesday than yesterday, but I think he was forced to do a lot more defensive work yesterday because our kids struggled a little bit against a much stronger team. But yeah, I think I think he's probably got himself onto the plane to Japan next week. But I'm not. I mean, it's just you read so much. I mean, when he was at Leeds, he was Johan Lang, who actually lives near Leeds, had to go and speak to him because he was 35 minutes late for a team meeting. He was turning up late for training, and those kinds of things. When you're on loan, you know, I mean, it gets back to the home base, and obviously Ange is going to hear this. He's going to say that he's mucking about, you know. I mean, it was Ange that probably detected that he wasn't quite right and sent him off to Leeds in the first place. But maybe those 6 months in Genoa helped him grow up, and he's now focused. I sincerely hope so for his own career, even if it's not even with us. I hope he's had a, you know, he's had a sort of coming of age, and he does look like a player. But I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced yet. I mean, you know, as they say, was it one swallow doesn't make a summer, or two 45 minutes to me doesn't make a baller. And you know, I need to see a lot more of what he can bring. And I don't want to hear the tittle tattle that comes out about it. It seems to leaks out about him. You know, his attitude. So I mean, even for that, you know, first video when they came back from training, he looks so uninterested to be there. And I just think, you know, if you're not interested, but I don't want you around the team because you can be poisonous.
Well, I'm going to use a line from a J. Cole song, which was basically George Bush. Fool me once, shame on me. No, shame on you, isn't it? Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me, you can't get fooled again. There must be something in the Jed Spence rumours. If you're turning up like, and Darius you can equate to this. If you're in a football team and you're playing now, and you see players that turn up 35 minutes late or 15 minutes into the game or just before you kick off or whatever it is, it's not a good thing. It's not good for the team. It's not good for the player, the manager, all the rest of it. The player thinks he can just, and if he gets played and all the rest of it, he thinks he can just do what he likes. Maybe he had that attitude at least because he thought, I'm coming from Spurs here, sort of thing, and that's why I'm going to just do what I want to do. I don't know. But what I don't get is if these are the fundamentals which has been talked about, and not just one manager said that, I think we should just have to cut our losses. Yeah, he might be playing him just for that, but I think Ange is not silly that he wants, because everybody has to buy into what Ange is doing. That's the one thing I do know. Everybody has to buy into what he's doing. The moment you get somebody who says, hold on a minute, I'm not quite sure about this. And I'm not sure if we saw some of that, maybe some aspects of that come out at the back end of last season where some players were kind of questioning. Obviously, we went through some terrible results. And I think the end of the season came at the right time for us because now we can get back into them and start making them believe again. But once you start getting a little areas where that belief's being tested and players are, well, I can't be armored. Don't matter if I'm 10 minutes late. He's only going to be doing that same thing again. then you have to question whether that player is the right player for what we're trying to achieve. And I don't think Ange is the sort of manager that's going to just allow players just to run roughshod over him. So Darius, if that was the case for Jed Spence, and if that is the case, are you keeping him?
If it means I don't have to keep Emerson Royale, 100%, yeah.
That's harsh.
I mean, it's not. It's really not
I know
harsh.
it's not.
Emerson Royale is...
It's not harsh.
For me, Jed Spence is a great player. I hear exactly what you're saying, Sean and Sam, about the attitude. I think it's even crazier for somebody who's on loan to be 35 minutes late to a team meeting. I think, if anything, you should be 35 minutes early if you're on loan. You should be proving yourself. So
he should be turning up before Ange even got in the building.
I'm saying. So I'm very conflicted because watching the little cameo he displayed was he would play in that right back role very well for us. I do think that, and I think he's an athlete and he's a very, very strong sort of powerful player. Now for me, he's not a starting right back, and whether he's willing to accept a bit part role / maybe starting in the cup games, that to me he seems like a player. And again, I'm not trying to make assumptions, but from what it seems like, if he wasn't starting every game, I don't know if he'd really want to be in that. You're going to come on if Porro's injured, or you're going to come on against a third round match in the. I don't think he really wants that. So it's going to be tough. We didn't want to sell him for, what was it? Just under 10. I think it's just under 10 mil to Genoa. Which fair. I get it. But you're either going to dilly-dally and he's going to go on a free in 2 years' time or whatever, or you're going to have to try and integrate him back into this team. I think he knows that Emerson's probably on his way out, so he's probably thinking, let me fight for this, and I can't fault somebody for doing that. So, yeah, judging from just what I saw in the first game against Hearts and QPR, he's done all right. So, it's a tough one. I think it is a tough one. I think Ange will leave it until quite late into this into the sort of transfer window to make a decision on him. I do think if we can get if there's a right back available for a good price who won't mind playing a second role, young right back, etc., I think we'll probably sell him. But again, if they do end up selling Emerson and then they do try to sell Spence and there's only Porro, and I guess you could say Gray as well as your right back options, and is that going to be too thin? I'm not too sure. So I think it's a little bit of it's a tough one. I will admit it's a tough one because I don't quite know myself. After I saw the way he played, I was like, he'd have a good role in this team. But then we know what the character of the player is like. Again, can't judge him completely, but yeah, it is a really tough one. I actually don't know what I would do right now. I'm leaning towards Jed stay, but again, if he was to start turning up late and stuff and not really putting the effort in because he's not starting, then are we all going to be surprised? Are we going to blame the player? I don't really think it'd be fair to blame the player. So, if we knew what to expect.
He's not.
Ange could be keeping his feet on the ground. You saw it in the post-match interview with Basuma, where he went past them and said, "It's only a pre-season game." When he was being, they were fluffing him up about his goal against QPR. He says it's only a pre-season game. You need to do it in the real games, and that's probably that. I love that actually. That's really good because it stops the players getting
especially Basuma, because he seems like he would get carried away with scoring a
Oh
goal. Like
God,
that.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
I don't want
He was loving his little bit of glory in the interview, but he needs checked. It's like when he was told it when Ange said to him at the beginning of the season, "Look, you're not one of the captains, but I see you in the leadership team." And he turned up 30 minutes late the next day.
Yeah,
and he said, "Look, and he said, I saw you as a leader. None of this." And as far as I know, he's been turning up. I'm a bit worried about his nightlife, but then that's another thing. I'm just a bit jealous there because I'm an old git. But I do want my players to be committed to the cause. And sometimes players let us down. They do let us down.
Yeah, Spence is not a starter. He's not going to be a starter. I don't think anywhere he goes, he's not going to be a starter. We all know that, and I think he needs to know that. So if he is going to stay at Spurs, he's got to know that he ain't going to be a starter. He's going to be, like you said, he's going to be backup coming up in games where he just needs to rest Pedro Porro or whoever to just give a rest for the next game. So bring him on for 20 minutes to go or whatever. But whatever it is, it's a Colonel Abrahams, isn't it? You don't listen to what you say or listen to what your folks say. It's a tough decision to make. And that's what it's going to be for Ange at the end of the day.
So for me, again, just to add my little bit on there, Neil Warnock, very experienced manager, very experienced person in football, said some things about Jed Spence. Basically said he could either be top quality Premier League player or down in League 2, League whatever it is. He said something to those effects. And what that led me to believe was attitude-wise, if the player doesn't necessarily have all the belief and the confidence of people around him, i.e. told you're the best, oh, you're great, I want you to do this, he kind of, doesn't look like or appears, from what I understand, to be that person who's, right, I'm going to fight for it. I'm going to do this. I'm not in a team. I'm going to fight for Spurs. I'm going to stay at Spurs. He kind of appears, and again, I'm using the word appear because I don't know. Oh, God, somebody's gone. Oh, I'm not going to. It looks like Porro's going to be starting every week. I'm only going to come on for certain games. And that attitude, that loss of 5% of attitude affects all of your football. I don't care who you are. You don't want to, if you're not a fighter per se who's willing to knuckle down, to get your head down, to get yourself into the team, you might not be the most talented, but you can show that level. Hence the reason why Ben Davies is still at our club. Hence the reason why Emerson Royal plays for us. It's because they have that attitude. He paid over nearly, £1 million, basically to say that he was going to fight for his place at Spurs when he knew he wasn't going to be a first choice there. Now, if Jed Spence had that attitude coupled along with his talent that he has, he'd probably be ahead of Pedro Porro right now. But those are the aspects that maybe has brought him down, and maybe other managers have seen. And once someone like Neil Warnock says that, regardless of whether he said that because the player was leaving or the player didn't want to stay, whatever it was, you got to kind of listen to that. And then you got to also listen to what Daniel Farquhar said at Leeds. And you've also got to think about what Conte said. And then you've also got to look at last season where Ange didn't really fancy him that much. And we can't just say, oh, no, he's now going to be brilliant, because he's only played, no disrespect, Hearts and QPR. I think we should get rid of. I think Andrew's putting him in the spotlights for players to, show that they have got that, and maybe somebody else will take him on loan, or maybe even buy, because there was a potential to buy, but 10 million wasn't enough.
Yeah, but then Sam, if you want to get rid and there's nobody coming in to either buy him or put him on loan, then you're not going to be able to sell him, are you? So maybe, because we've had it since last season, the opportunity to get rid of him, sell him, loan him, whatever, but people don't want him. So
they've managed to get him out on loan.
Yeah.
So he's not been in the club. Once, if you stay at the club with the attitude that he potentially could have, you could be disruptive, and that's what I think Ange has to do everything he can to avoid.
Yeah.
So if he gets him out, whether it's a sell, whether it's a loan, he's not in the four walls of Spurs and doesn't have that effect. And he's going to have to do that with a number of players, I do believe, if we're going to have a successful season, because too many players, if your attitude isn't right to say, I'm going to stay and fight and I'm part of the team, the squad, I'm not going to play every week, and you're there moaning, oh God, Porro's playing ahead of me today.
Did he have to play him?
Say again?
Did he have to play him
Who?
in the last 2 games?
Spence.
Clearly, Spence. Clearly, that means
could have played Gray if you
exactly.
really wanted
Clearly,
to.
that means there's something going on in Ange's mind, because if he's been out on loan and he's come back, he could have just said to him, "Do you know what, mate? I don't want you. So I'm going to find you another club, or you need to go and find yourself another club." But he's chosen not to do that, and he's chosen to integrate him into this squad. There's a couple of players. I think the Celso wasn't included in that squad. There's somebody else who's not been included. So does that tell you that Angie's probably looking at keeping him? We don't know. This is the thing, isn't it? So I don't know. It's a tricky one. I agree. I hear what you're saying, but I just think there's something brewing there with Ange, because...
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Sid, because if you look at it, Reguilon didn't appear. Gill didn't appear. They're both back at the club as far as I know. So they're obviously on their way out. So, maybe this is last chance to learn. And I just hope he takes it. I just really hope he takes it, because it would be a shame, because, we were really excited when he arrived, weren't we? We'd seen what he'd done at Forest,
Massively.
what he'd done at Middlesbrough, and
Massively.
he just, I mean, it didn't help that it was Conte, and Conte.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Conte was a disaster, but then we all know what happened there, and the less said about him, the better. But yeah, it's I mean, there's a lot of players to go still, and I'll just name two of them for example, but I don't think. I mean, there's another. I want to throw in a question to you. Do you think that Fraser Forster is the second best goalkeeper at Tottenham?
No.
Hell no.
Optimus Prime is gone.
Hell no.
He's done.
Great question.
Hell no.
Optimus Prime is done. And I tell you why.
He's done.
I think both Gunter had a good game and Austin. And I think Whiteman, is done as well. Gunter and Austin have to be number 2 and 3. That's what I'm saying.
I
call him Stone Cold Brandon Austin now, I'm telling you, because he was proper. He surprised me.
Yeah.
Proper surprised me. Very, very good. I don't think he's going to necessarily, again, can't get carried away. He's a friendly and stuff, but when you've got somebody like Forster who's just
he's knocking around for he's knocking around because of vibes.
He's there for vibes.
He's definitely there for vibes. It's like what Joe Hart kind of come to the end of his Spurs career, and he had that same sort of appeal. He was there for vibes. He wasn't at
Joe
his
Hart
best.
was even at Tottenham, to be honest with you.
But he needed to get out and I think the same.
Joe Hart, Scottish double winner.
Went on to go and win. Yeah, went on to win the league.
Yeah.
He's probably just stood
I
up.
tell you what, he's absolutely worshipped up here.
I know he's loved up there, isn't he?
Yeah, he's absolutely loved. Yeah.
The last player I want to touch on today, and this is because we've gone 57 minutes, and Darius, you can talk to me. Lucas Bergville.
Oh, I thought we were going to get to talk about Mikey Moore as well.
Nah, I think we've got to talk.
Tyree Paul.
I think we can have a whole episode for Mikey Moore.
We'll have to come back to them too. The only reason I chose Bergville out of between those three, because they all have got the potential, really, is because I think Bergville is.
He's going to start first game. He's starting first game unless this injury is serious.
Well, this is what I'm thinking. Now that I've seen that Højbjerg's gone, I think Maddison has to be really careful here. I'm not lying to you. I personally think Maddison.
He can't go a run of games like he did last time and not perform now because he has competition now. You know what? Call me crazy.
I'll tell you what, he can play any of the positions in midfield.
Call me crazy. I think he'll play with Maddison. I think not to say Sar's not going to get a start. I don't think Sar's not going to get sort of exiled. I do think Sar is incredibly important. But if we play
you got to have the legs.
But if we play Archie Gray in that DM, I think Lucas Bergvall, 18-year-old's got the engine to do what he needs to do. He gets up and down the pitch. I see us. This is me personally, because I like the fact that you have brought up Bergvall, because again, after watching, you can see when a player is talented, and you can see when age doesn't really matter.
Did you see him take the ball off the centre back? And
he's incredible. No, I don't even want to go. I don't want to be too over the top and say things like that are gonna, come back and bite me on the arse. But I do think he is a prodigious talent. I think he is that good, and he's 6'1". He's 18. His ball control is incredible. When we played through Bergvall, everything was much quicker, much more free flowing, much more energetic. In my opinion, I think it's going to be okay. I would like to see a Gray Maddison Bergvall midfield free to start off against Leicester. I don't think we'll get that. I think it will be Bissouma, Sarr, Maddison maybe, but Bergvall could start that first game of the season, and I don't think anybody would really care or bat an eyelid. I think we've got our hands on a very, very special talent in that midfield role, and I think he's also ready now to play in the Premier League at 18. So for me, again, I don't care about the age, and I feel the same for Mikey Moore. I don't want to sort of bring him up because we will talk about him later, but you kind of, when it comes to these sort of talented players, it don't really matter. You just play them, and I do think Bergvall is good enough, and he has made us look better, even in the friendlies, just from what we've seen. He's the assist he got for his for Mikey Moore's goal, some of the passes he was playing, the way he breaks lines in his passes. I genuinely think he might, or I think he should start
on the first game against Leicester, but I wouldn't be surprised. Let's say that if it was Maddison and Bergvall started in that midfield as two eights, two attacking eights.
My thoughts on Bergvall. I hear what you're saying about him in terms of he could start alongside Maddison. I just think that Sarr has proved from last season that you need to have legs in there. You need to have someone who's going to be box to box to box to box to box. Now, Maddison doesn't strike me as to be a box to box player, although he does drop deep. He's not box to box. He can drop deep to pick up the ball, but he ain't got that engine to be up and down, up and down, up and down. Bergvall, 18, you would imagine that he should have more of an engine to be able to do that. But I don't want to see him picking the ball up too deep because I think he can pick the ball up in further advanced areas, even if it's to drift that wide. Because that cross that he put in that didn't get put as an assist because obviously there was a save after it, should have been because Scarlett should have scored that header. Was it Scarlett who made the header?
Yeah,
Scarlett should have scored that header. And then Jed Spence picked up the rebound, wasn't it? That's right. Phillips picked up the rebound. And that was
well, it depends if you believe Mickey van der Ven.
Well, anyway, somehow, go on.
Mickey van der Ven taunted him on his Instagram, saying, "Shame on you for claiming an own goal." It was in front of me, and I thought it was Ash's goal. So yeah.
I would have claimed it if I was a centre back. I
don't care if it was a friendly, if it was a game, charity game. I'd claim
I'm taking that. But yeah, so I can see a not necessarily one or the other. There might be an opportunity to play both of them at the same time, but to start games, I don't see Ange doing that from what I've seen of him so far.
You really don't think he's going to play? Look, the only reason I say that as well is because you've got to look at the position that Kulusevski's picked up in the last two friendlies as well. He's been a midfielder. Mm-hmm. And I think you've got to realise Basuma defensively, where he did have his tackles and interceptions. Basuma's tackles and interceptions were up there, but as a defence, I do think he was, I wouldn't want to say defensive liability, but he wasn't helping and supporting in that defence. And helping and supporting those centre backs. I think Archie Gray is gonna. And if you again, I say this because I was looking at the way that Basuma played last in the game against Hearts specifically. He was very deep with those centre backs. He was almost building up the play with those centre backs. I really do think we're going to slightly tweak the way we play. I do think Maddison's still going to drop deep and pick up the ball, but I think that DM is going to have a much more sort of defensive minded role to play, and it will allow those two attacking eights to play a little bit more forward.
I can see our midfield rotating quite a bit.
I was going to say there will be rotation in midfield. I 100% agree with that.
During the game as well.
100%. And that's, I always say that the starting positions are what you see on the paper at the start of the game. And then once that kicks off, you never see that ever again, unless they're in defensive blocks and they're moving left to right. But that's a defensive shape as opposed to an attacking shape. For me, Basuma has always had this thing about, is Basuma a defensive midfielder? But if you asked him, I don't think he'd say he's a defensive midfielder. I just think he'd say, I'm a great, talented midfielder. And the fact that he's been kind of pigeonholed to maybe, well, we think we could put you in there because you've got them attributes. I don't think he wants to do that role. And I've seen the way he plays.
That's why he played at Brighton. He kind of played that role at Brighton.
They kind of had a midfield too at times. And I think he was so good at Brighton that he could do what he wants almost. I don't necessarily think he played because I've seen clips when the reason why we wanted to buy him, it wasn't because of his defensive abilities that we bought him. He was a very
press breaking abilities. He was a press breaker, wasn't he?
But his ability on the ball. I remember all them Brazil scouts and all the stuff. It was his ability on the ball that I was thinking, oh my God, yeah, he can get away from a player. Sort of like a Moussa Dembele when we had him. That's what I was thinking that we were going to get, a next version of that. We haven't got that at this moment in time. Moussa Dembele, you could have played him in a defensive midfield, but he was that good that he could have just done anything because he had the engine until his career got shortened by the injuries. But Sid, I wanted to just ask you that then. Do you see this? What's your starting midfield for you? If you're looking at the first game of the season, even with the players that have not seen this so far, but our best team in your mind at this stage, would you see Bergvall starting?
You know what? It's a tricky one, but I think he'll go with Basuma, Sarr, and Maddison. I think he starts with them three because we had a shit run towards the end of the season, and I think he'll want to do what he done last season, and he'll want to be firing on all cylinders beginning of the season. So experimenting, I don't think will be an option. I think he'll be wanting to win the first 3, 4, 5 games and have the points in the bag like we did last season. As much as I want to see Bergwijn start, I personally believe he'll go with Basuma, Saw, and Maddison, and then bring him on or whoever on if needed. But I think he'll want the 3 points more, unless in the tour of Japan and obviously Korea and against Bayern and that, he plays them and they play absolutely phenomenal and he has no choice to start. But I think he'll go with tried and tested, and I think the tried and tested are Basuma, Saw, and Maddison.
But you know what? I also will say he ain't got no excuse to take players off now.
No.
Like, if it ain't working, make subs, because I think that was a bit of an issue that we had. Not to say that Maddison was undroppable, but who are you going to bring on for Maddison if he wasn't playing well? When he wasn't playing well for a long stretch of the season, you're going to bring on Lo Celso, and I don't really think that's. I think, not to say that he got comfortable, but like in your head, I think Maddison kind of knew, like, there ain't really anybody who's going to compete for my position. Do you know what I mean? I do think now, if Maddison's not playing well, you've got quite a few players that you could probably bring on in that position to maybe not do the role as well as Maddison. But again, it's all about competition, isn't it? When your position is threatened, you're going to play that little bit better.
But that shouldn't have been the case with Maddison last season, because we had Lo Celso. Kulusevski proved that he could play there. He could even maybe throw in a Brian Gill if you wanted to play him as a 10.
But then again, you go through those names that you just mentioned. If you saw Kulusevski, Lo Celso, or Brian Hill come on for Maddison, you might not be like, oh, flipping out, why is this happening? But you're not going to be over the moon. If
I was Lo Celso, I'd be saying I think he's a good player. I think Lo Celso didn't get enough opportunities. I think when he did get some opportunities, remember when we had that period when we was thinking, bloody hell, we've got no midfielders. He actually did well in that midfield. He did quite well in comparison to a player that's not been played regularly. And again, it goes down to the fact that a lot of players haven't been given enough opportunity. But how much opportunity do you give them? Do we say the same thing for him this season? Again, Lo Celso, great player, but does he want to stay at Spurs? I don't think he wants to stay at Spurs.
This is the thing. For me with Lo Celso, you got, like, I would just try and make I do what I did with Højbjerg. Like, for me, would you rather try to shoehorn a position for Lo Celso or a role in this team for Lo Celso to stint the potential growth of the likes of Alfie Devine, the likes of Lucas Bergwijn? For me, I would rather take the risk with one of these kids and say, all right, cool, Bergwijn, Devine, Tyrese Hall, will rotate you over giving Lo Celso another chance. In my opinion, you can get rid of him. You can solve that homegrown quota. And for me, I don't think the drop-offs to the point where it's like, oh wow, we're really missing Lo Celso. Do you know what I mean? So
I got to stop because I've got to come to the fan club of GLC. The main leader of the fan club is Sid. Sid, you seem quite happy if Lo Celso goes. Is that true?
How many years have we had him? And yeah, so I think yes. If Aston Villa have come in for him, snap your hands off, man. See you later. It's exactly.
I'm not sure about the Jacob Ramsey though. Like, I think we're just trading. We're just getting an English version of Lo Celso almost in a way, because he's just injury prone and. I
agree with what you're saying. You know what? Give the youngsters an opportunity, because the Divines and whoever else can come in and do a job. So yeah, just let him go. I'll drive him there, man. Don't worry. I'll take him to Villa wherever he wants to go. Wherever he goes, I'll take him. No problem. But yeah, 3 years.
So we all have our buy-sell players. We all do. We all have.
It's just like it's not worth keeping him for Alfie Devine next year to say I didn't get enough game time. Exactly. I want to move to Crystal Palace. I want to move to and Mikey Moore again. For me, he's a different case, because I do think you just give him whatever he wants. If he wants to start, if he wants to play, you got to give him minutes, because if he anyhow a club comes in, and I can see already Chelsea, Real Madrid's, and City's and United sniffing around. You just got to give him whatever he wants. Give him as much game time as he can possibly get. And the likes of Lo Celso, the likes of Højbjerg, again, the likes of Skip. I'm not hating on Skip, but you might be able to get 20 million for him. I think Leeds were interested in signing him. If you can get, if somebody says I'll give you 25 mil, 20 mil for Skip, got to, man. These are the things you got to do. So yeah.
Yep. And that's 1 hour 10 on that. Oh, I tell you what, we can talk about Spurs quite a lot. We can. Final thoughts then. Sid, I know you got Dad, so you want to give your final thoughts and then see you later.
Do you know what? It's pre-season. We've got rid of 11 players since Ange's took over. Let the window carry on. Apparently, there's 3 more coming in. They keep saying. So, life is like a box of chocolates. We never know what we're going to get next. And enjoy the pre-season friendlies.
Thank you very much. And enjoy your evening if you're going to.
Thank you, guys. Catch you all later. And Lo Celso. Bye.
Sean, final thoughts.
Yeah, it's just pre-season. It's just getting fitness in the legs. It's just about avoiding injury. And the Hearts player who drew blood from Maddison's leg on Wednesday night deserves to be shot. Let's not get het up too much. We're seeing some exciting talent. The transfer window is still open. There's talk, as I say, of players coming in, players going out. We can pick a team today, and they're either they're not here or they're on the bench. It's very difficult to decide. But I'm very excited. I like the new additions that we've got. I like the fact that there's some young players who want to fight for their badge and want to fight for their place. And it's now over to the man who gets paid the big bucks, Postecoglou, to make a decision what he does with the team. And hopefully the transfers come in.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. Darius, final thoughts.
I think we are in for a much different sort of squad when we look at how it will be come August. I think there's going to be a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of decisions to be made based on whether certain players should go. We should give them, a year. I think when it comes to sort of certain players, with a year, 2 years on their contract, I think if they can be sold, they will be sold. And I think that's the sort of mindset I think Spurs are taking. If they can get rid of a player, they will. The likes of Lo Celso, the likes of Skip, the likes of Richarlison, even Basumas and Bentancurs, I really do think that if they can make the money back or more, they will do it. So there's a positive. I think there's definitely a more positive feeling towards Spurs. Obviously, given last pre-season Andrew's coming in, it was pretty negative. Nobody really expected anything. I think we all know how we're going to approach the season now, how we're going to play. I'm just really excited to see what kids get really pushed into this 11 and in this squad, because I do think there's a lot of youngsters that are good enough. And if we don't give them the chances, they will move on and we will regret seeing them at other clubs, other Premier League clubs, other Champions League clubs, whatever that is. I know that we'll regret that. So it's about time we started finding, a direct pathway for these kids to get into the starting 11. And I think that we are beginning to see that. So, positive. I think, as Sid mentioned, Paul O'Keefe, who is, for me, the best and most reliable source for a lot of Spurs news regarding transfers, has mentioned that 3 incomings will be accelerated in the coming future. So we'll wait and see who they are, what positions they are, and how that affects, people going out of the club as well. So it's all still 2 months of the transfer window to go. We've got a long time still, so just under 2 months. No, I'd say about a month and 10 days now, because it's September 1st, I believe it finishes. So month and a half, just maybe about. So
4 weeks is it till our first game? 1, 2,
3. I want to say 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks.
No, 4 weeks. Our first game's on the 19th of August.
Oh, 19th,
Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, so
cool.
season starts the Friday. I think it's
on the Friday, Man United.
Yeah.
So I think
so effectively we've got 4 weeks left.
I think it's 4 weeks now, like you said, of really seeing where this squad's going to be. The real preseason. I don't know if you guys know when we do fly out to East Asia, but when I normally see that as like crunch time for preseason when we do our international tour. So I'm just excited to, like I said, I'm watching all the preseason games just because of the youngsters. The youngsters are exciting me a lot, and I'm looking forward to seeing who solidifies their place in this squad and who will be on their way out of the door as well, because I do think there will be quite a few more outgoings as well. So
yeah, exciting times, I guess. Don't want to get too carried away with it, but I
I'm not
like the look
mistaken,
of some of our players.
They should have flown out either today or tomorrow. Is that right?
I have no idea.
I think they're going Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday? Okay.
Yeah, 'cause the first game.
When do we play Bayern Munich?
First game Saturday, so 27th versus what they call
Kobe
it?
Bissau.
First game?
It's in Tokyo on
It's in
Saturday.
Tokyo. Yes, in Tokyo.
And then they fly onwards to Korea. They play on the Wednesday, and then the Saturday they play Bayern in Korea.
Okay.
And then the following week they play Munich again, but at our place. So you know.
Yeah, I'm excited again. I don't like to get carried away for preseason because it could all change come the start of the season. But there's a lot of young talent in this team that will keep me intrigued and engaged up until August the 19th. And again, I hope to see some of them potentially get minutes in that Premier League as well. So yeah, just not trying to get too carried away in the transfers, not trying to get too carried away with the players. Just trying to enjoy having club football back. So yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to the players that are away coming back into the fold. All the defenders that we've talked about coming back in. Also, obviously excited about the remainder of the transfer window. You have to have some degree of excitement about it. I do feel that we might not see as many incomings as we might think. I personally think we're going to see maybe a few more outgoings, but there's probably players that we think should go that ain't going to go. And I know that's always the case every single season. So I think someone made a good point. It's a mistake of what we think. It's what the manager thinks and what the hierarchy thinks. We can have our thoughts and that's great, but ultimately it's down to them what they think as to how they dictate what Spurs' future will look like, certainly the near future. So yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm looking forward to watching the games as per you. Spurs plays fantastic. You can get to watch them games and watch them in full. That's about it. So make sure, if you're still watching us, like, subscribe, comment, Paxton Road TV, PRTV Spurs. Please do that. It helps us out massively. Even though Paxton Road is going to be no more, it will still be available and it still helps us with the algorithm. And then obviously we want everybody that's subscribed over there to come over and all the rest of it. So yeah, brilliant. I think we'll do another show sometime, maybe after they've done that first game in Japan, because it looks like it's a proper Japan tour that they've got sorted out. So
I do think we're going to see. I think we're going to see a few more signings. I actually do think we're going to see 3 more signings.
You do? Okay. Well, that'd be good.
Something tells me we are like Postecoglou keeps mentioning about the attack's not there yet. I know we're finishing up, but he keeps mentioning the attack's not there yet. The attack's not there yet. I think he's gonna. I think he wants two wide forwards. Let's call them that. I think Lancashire. If we can sell Richarlison to Saudi, put Lancashire in there. Get 2 forwards. That's what I think is going to happen, and then backup left back as well.
Yeah, we can maybe do something where we can kind of look to what again. It depends on who else comes in, but we have to just take things as they are at the time. But I think there's players who are under some serious threat. Richarlison being one of them. I said Maddison. Definitely think Maddison's under threat this season in terms of Bissouma. Hence the reason why I think we're seeing him put them burners on to try and get himself into check. Because I think personally, Sarr, not to say he's nailed on, but I think he's pretty much one of the first choices in that midfield for me, just because of his engine. And remember, that's what he wants, someone that can get up and down the pitch. You need to be able to move and be able to be mobile. And as I think, sometimes some players take their foot off that because they don't necessarily believe they have to do it. Maybe because they don't feel that they're under pressure. So I think we're doing some good stuff with the players that are actually coming in. Bergville against Maddison and yeah, certainly Archie Bissouma could be a one to watch as to who gets that first team spot. But who knows? Who bloody knows? Thank you for watching. Make sure you do as I've asked me to. Like, subscribe, comment. Paxton Road TV. All the rest of that. Look out for sure on X as what is it? Handle again, because I know you should change it.
Tottenham Tifosi 61. Yeah.
And Mr. 3K, what's your handle on Insta? The people can. It's Darius 3K. There you go. So no need to ask. And mine's, as you can see, at Sounds First for Life, Instagram, and also X as well. That's it. That's it, lads. Thank you very much. Great show as per usual. We will be back with you people very soon. The season's only 4 weeks away. We've got plenty of friendlies to come, and the transfer window hasn't effectively ended, and won't end until the 1st of September. So all good. That's it. I'm looking for that. I always do that. I just chatting away because I can't find what I'm looking for until this point, which I have. Thank you very much.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Sports development football.